From the alley-oops at Keysar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and we are going to be talking about the defensive side of the ball because we need to come up with the 49ers depth chart. But the guys that are going to be going against George Kittle, block, catch, run, fear nothing.
It's a beautiful shirt.
Yeah, it is. And I just want to know how this depth chart is going to shake out. And I think we have a pretty good idea of what it looks like going into the preseason and training camp, and we want everyone to kind of see what we're thinking, feeling, and how this team is looking.
And how right we're going to be. Just so right.
We're on target.
So right going into training camp, right? When day one of training camp comes and that first practice hits, you're going to be able to look back on this list here and be like, man, these guys were right about most of the first team guys, second team guys. We hope.
Yeah.
But we're pretty confident.
There's no guarantees.
There's no guarantees at all because you just never know, right? You get into training camp and Kyle Shanahan decides to throw everybody for a loop and look at the young guys first, and you never know. But we got a pretty good idea of what we think this is going to turn out into and what it's going to shape into. So make sure right now you smash that like button. Let us know how much you like the depth chart or how much you think we got it wrong by liking the video and then commenting down below. Also, lay your predictions out there as well for who you think it's going to be because there's a lot of positions to talk about. And we're going to try and not let this get to an hour-long conversation where we hit a lot of the guys and then have to tail it back at the end. But we'll start first with the defensive ends, and who's the first guy, and I don't think it'll be a shock to anybody, but who's the first guy in that defensive end group that kind of sets the depth chart tone?
The first guy on the list is 100% Nick Bosa. And we know everything that Nick Bosa brings to this defensive line. He is by far the alpha on this team. He is the main guy. He's the guy that everyone's going to look to. Every single offense has to prepare for where in the heck is Nick Bosa going to be. And he's going to lock it down. He can do it all. He can rush the passer and he can play the run. He can set the edge at a high level. I don't think this is a big question of him being number one. Anytime you see 97 on the field, everyone's worried.
Oh, man, they should be worried because Nick Bosa is an absolute monster. And whether it's early in the season getting, the kind of that pitch count, or whether it's full bore once we get to a little bit further into the season, midway point, he's going to be a problem for everybody. After that, next on our depth chart at the defensive end spot is Arik Armstead. And this is a guy, right, that is going to be a base 4-3 guy. He's going to be down there on rundown, specifically on that edge, and then going to shift inside on pass rushes. But he is the starting defensive end opposite of Nick Bosa.
Yeah, and he's still an issue for right tackles. He can still cause, a lot of pressure off the outside as a pass rusher in those base downs. But you're right, he's going to slide inside on obvious pass downs, which we know. But he sets the edge very well. He is a very good run stopper. The one area I think that he could clean up is probably against the zone read. He likes to, fly down the line a little bit too much and gets caught out of position with running quarterbacks. Those are things he could clean up, but everything else he does well. He gets offensive guys away from him. He's able to shed blocks, make plays. There's not a lot that he can't do well. Is he the pass rusher that Nick Bosa is off the edge? No. But other than that, he's very good and a solid number 2 defensive end for this 49ers defense.
And if we were Thanos right now, we would be coming on to tell you how Arik Armstead is really, really bad against the run, and he just stands there sometimes and lets himself get blocked, when in reality he's actually setting the edge. So we'll take this off because we're not Thanos, and we don't say crazy things about Arik Armstead on this podcast. At the end of the day, Arik Armstead is solid against the run.
Yeah.
And I think that the one weakness you pointed out is his weakness, and he's got time to clean that up. And I think he's going to improve because the more the league evolves, the more you got some more speedy guys, which is why the next 2 guys on our list fall in where they fall. But there might be some controversy, or some of the fan base probably isn't going to agree with the guy we have here at 3, but we are both in the boat that D Ford is going to be healthy, and if D Ford's healthy, he's third on this depth chart.
Yeah, the reason he is he's not an unknown. As far as what you're going to get from him if he's on the field. He's going to rush the passer. He has the best first step, or one of the best first steps in the NFL. His get-off is unbelievable. Getting to the quarterback, him and Nick Bosa on opposite sides on obvious pass downs is a problem for everyone. The pocket collapses, from the outside, and then you get to step up into the big defensive line that's awaiting you. That is why Armstead and Buckner had great 2019 seasons because of these 2 guys. So the impact that he can make definitely warrants him being the third guy there. There are questions about injuries. I think we all know that, but if he's healthy, he's good to go.
100%. And the next guy is fourth on the list, Ebukam, because we don't know what he looks like in the system. So we're not just going to take all the things that we think he can be and the greatness that he can achieve in the system and immediately throw him into the stratosphere of the best 2 defensive end on this roster. Is there a possibility that he could end up being the number 2 guy on the depth chart behind Nick Bosa? 100% yes. And if you're a 49er fan, you should want that, because then Eric Armstead gets to move all over the field, and that actually makes him a more dangerous pass rusher, number 1, but also versatile against the run because you can put him in a bunch of different spots. However, there's not enough on tape there yet. And we know that he's going to have strengths in the pass game as a pass rusher, but can he do the things as an edge rusher in the run game? I don't think necessarily that's going to be his biggest strength or what he's going to be utilized as. So that limits him. Also, he's an unknown. As soon as we see a little bit more on Ebukam, he could fly up that depth chart.
Strength-wise, he's able to play and set the edge.
Correct.
I mean, if you watch this guy's videos, the physical strength is there. He's a brick house.
Monster.
As far as technique, he will be able to play low and with leverage against right tackles especially, and have success playing opposite of Nick Bosa. I think we will see Ebukam on the field more than I initially thought. I thought he was going to be more of a special guy, but now we know that's where D Ford's going to be used the most. So now Ebukam will play on more downs, which means Armstead can move in more times. You get second and long, you might see an obvious pass down where these guys are actually in together. Maybe they're more of a part of your nickel package, but the rotation is going to be nice, and he's going to be solid. Him and D Ford, both of them add a extra element that we were missing last year, and now that we have it, speed off the edge is a real problem for everyone else. Happy feet for these guys, especially the quarterbacks in the NFC West. They're going to have happy feet, and if they don't get moving, these guys are going to run them down. Ebukam's going to have a big season.
Agree with you there, and that's only 4. That's only 4 names.
Yeah.
We're just getting to the 5th.
We're just getting started.
That's Arden Key.
Yeah.
That's a great name there at 5, because this is a guy that was starting and playing a lot of snaps with the Vegas Raiders. This is our 5th option, is Arden Key. This DN group is stacked.
Yeah, and Arden Key is really your 4th guy as far as rotational, because D Ford is going to be used specialty. So he's a nice guy to have come in. He's your, guy that can come in and play base downs. He can still play that. He's a nice rotation. Bosa and those guys can get breaks. So that's really nice. Having that rotation is what they needed. Ronald Blair, that was a glaring hole last year. We didn't have Ronald Blair to come in for the rotation. Now we have Arden Key. We're good to go.
And this guy can get sideline to sideline, so you don't have to worry about the speed aspect there. He's got the long arms, long legs. He can cover a lot of distance in a very short amount of time. And then we got a guy behind him that has been a massive upgrade, has continued to improve each and every season he's been on this roster, Kentavious Street.
Yeah, Kentavious Street, had the injuries early on, and that really derailed his development. A lot of times the questions has been, too, he's been a lot like Solomon Thomas. Is he an inside guy? Is he an outside guy? Right now we have him playing in that base 4-3, kind of in the Armstead mold where he plays outside and then inside on obvious pass downs. I could see him playing the 3-tech or outside, in the wide 9 at defensive end. He's on the bubble as far as making this roster, and he's going to have to step up and play. I don't know what his body looks like. There's not a lot of film or pictures or anything from him in the offseason, so I don't know if he's been putting on weight to play inside or if he's been keeping his weight, lower to play outside. But the one thing I do know, he's crazy strong, crazy physical, and can set the edge against the run. But he's got a lot of work to do to make this roster, but he's a good player, and it's nice to have that kind of depth at the end of the depth chart.
100%, and he's fundamentally sound. His technique is really good. He's been working with Chris Kasarik, and you've seen the improvement over the last few years, and I think that's the edge up he has right now over a guy like Arden Key. The problem is Arden Key has all the physical tools that Kentavious Street doesn't have.
And now Arden Key is going to get to work with Chris Kasarik and develop his game.
So there goes that advantage out the window.
And also the change in philosophy from Las Vegas, where you're trying to occupy blockers to now you're going to be coming here and you're going to be attacking. Something Key is going to be successful. And one of his running mates that came over, we'll be talking about later, the same sort of benefit from playing in the wide 9 and Chris Kasarik's attacking defensive line.
Correct. The last 2 guys on the list are definitely, I wouldn't even say they're bubble players. It's going to be very hard for both these guys to make the roster, but right now they slot in there in these last 2 spots for the defensive ends, and that's Alex Barrett and Deshaun Hall.
I'm going to talk about Alex Barrett because I thought he flashed a few times last year.
He had his moments.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing 64 out there making plays. Number 1, that was one of my jersey numbers, and I enjoy it. Number 2 is it's just you see the guy out there attacking and getting better. He's gotten a lot better since he first came into the league till now. Another guy that's developed in Chris Kasarik's defense.
Surprise.
There is potential there. The question is, can he make this roster? We thought Jordan Willis would be making this roster, but now he's suspended.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's room for Barrett to move on. Barrett is a more slender player, a different build than Kentavious Street. If Street is moved inside, maybe Barrett can push to make this roster. Any injuries could also make it so Barrett can make this roster.
Oh, I agree with you there. He's probably one injury away from being able to have a slot and have a spot there. Deshaun Hall, we don't know really much about. I haven't seen a lot of tape on Deshaun Hall. I don't really know much about him. He's definitely got probably the biggest hill of everyone in that DN group in terms of the climb.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see what happens there with Deshaun Hall. But Alex Barrett and Kentavious Street are definitely two names to watch that are bubble kind of fringe guys that have developed and could very well break into this roster and onto that active 53-man depth chart. Won't get a lot of impact and time on the field, but if they do get a chance, they've shown they can do something.
Yeah, Barrett has film. You know what I mean? You can see film of Barrett playing. You can see film of Street playing. They know the 49er system, so it's nice having depth of guys that actually know what Chris Kasarik expects, what D'Amico Ryans expects, and then they can go out there and operate. Barrett is, to me, better at rushing the passer than setting the edge, and Kentavious Street's better at setting the edge than rushing the passer, so there is a contrast there.
Yeah, there's a lot of good clips of Kentavious Street last year, especially against the Rams, having a lot of success against that run game, so go check those out as well if you haven't.
Yeah.
Next up, the D tackles. There's only going to be 3 names here, folks.
Because it's the 3-tech.
It's the 3 technique is what we're talking about specifically. So don't be like, well, there's more than...
Yeah.
We're breaking it down here specific to this defense and what they do and what they run. So the D tackle spot, first on that depth chart list, Javon Kinlaw. No surprises there. There shouldn't be any surprises there. And in all honesty, 49ers fans, faithful Cutback crew, you should be excited for what Javon Kinlaw is going to bring to the table. Because this is a guy that was already really good against the run and is only going to continue to improve in the pass game.
You saw him improve so much, and that was playing way too many snaps. He shouldn't have been playing that many snaps, but he was thrust out there because of injury, and he really had to learn on the go, and he did a great job. He's very physical. His hands are super strong and super heavy. Heavy hands are nice when you're making contact with that offensive chest plate. Get the guy, get extended, move him, and we just saw the quickness, agility of him being able to get by. The pass rush moves are getting there. It went from this guy can't do anything but bull rush, and that's all he did at practice. That is because Chris Kasarik was working on this guy attacking low, not playing high. And as soon as that developed, then here came everything else. All the pass moves. You saw him doing the training with the knives. All that stuff is stuff that he's working on his hands and his development. He's going to be a problem this year. This is the year that we see Kinlaw step up to the next level and make a lot of people worried about how the 49ers defense is going to be, because this guy right now I think is kind of on the afterthought of what people think about when they're worried about the 49ers. He could become more prominent in their thinking process and game planning here pretty soon.
The forethought, I like that a lot. I really do. After that, Kevin Givens, a guy that we really, really like, a guy that has developed tremendously in the last year and a half. Kevin Givens, he's not going to be a guy who starts with this defensive group, but he's one injury away from getting in there and playing significantly more minutes. And you know what? That doesn't actually scare me. He's improved drastically. Yeah. He's much better in the run than he has been in the past, and in the past against the run game, and in the pass game, the dude has a motor. He does not quit.
He doesn't, and he's able to get skinny. For people that don't know what that means, it means get your body, sideways, get in between offensive players. And when you play inside, a lot of times you have to break double teams. You have to get skinny, get the arm through rip. And he does that well. And he's got a quick change of direction. For a big guy, he can really move from side to side. He's a prototypical 3-tech when you're thinking about how they're built. This guy can definitely play on pass downs. Mm-hmm. When you talk about some of these guys, they can't play on pass downs because they don't have the quickness to be able to push up the field, but he can do it. He's a slasher and attacker. I like him because I think he can get down the line and stop run plays as well. This is a very nice duo with him and Kinlaw. You're feeling very good about the rotation. Oh, we're having a rotation and Key is out there next to this guy. It's just really nice to see.
And it gets even better when you look at the next name, because the next name is Maurice Hurst.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who is phenomenal against the run, especially. This guy is athletic as all can be. The technique stuff in pass rushing situations is really what he's going to have to work on. And you know what? Being out of that Raiders system and not having to eat up blocks and being able to focus on getting downhill, attacking the ball, right? Attacking the quarterback, attacking the running back, whatever it may be. This could actually help him, and he could catapult into that number 2 spot on the depth chart over Kevin Givens. But he's going to have to work. He's going to have to improve. He's going to have to develop.
He has potential. He has the potential. He hasn't shown it yet. But just because you haven't shown it, a lot of times can be where you were fit. Your scheme, wherever you were playing. Las Vegas wasn't the best fit for him or Arden Key. We'll see how they do in this defense with Chris Kasarik, pulling the strings on the line. Just the different style and the aggressiveness, the way they're able to attack. I do like the lateral movement, the way he's able to get down the line. We saw him run fly sweeps down against New England. That's impressive. Not a lot of guys can do that. He has very good hand placement. It's not like the best you've ever seen, but I think it's going to get better and better. And I think what's going to be fun, too, to watch is the times that you see 2-3 techs on the field where they take a nose off and they put 2-3 techs for obvious pass rushing downs. He can do that. He can play out there. Him and Kevin Givens can obviously be out there on obvious pass downs and give Armstead and those guys a break if needed on long drives. Mm-hmm. Second of all, line stunts. When you have the speed on the outside to go with the athletic ability on the inside, these guys can do all kinds of TE stunts and really get these guys around and cause issues because he could get around the outside. That's a part of the thing that I don't know if we always look into is the athletic ability of some of these guys creates for more opportunities, for more creativeness from D'Amico Ryans, also in the blitz game, zone blitzes and stuff. These guys can drop off. Yes, they're not going to be able to cover people long, but you only have to cover 1 or 2 seconds. These guys can handle the load.
A nice Maurice Hurst, Eric Armstead TE stunt. Man,
I like it.
That's a nice image.
Yeah,
I like that image.
Or even a Samson Nebuchom.
That'd also be good too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good variety here. There's a lot of good names.
It's true. There's a lot of flexibility on that D line.
It's true, and it just gets more flexible when you move into the nose tackle slot because first on that list there for us is DJ Jones.
DJ Jones is a beast.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
If you want to think about DJ Jones, just think about him absolutely destroying Seattle center and mowing him down, and Russ had nowhere to go.
Russ just curled up into a little ball
fetal
and
position.
Said, DJ, eat me.
Yeah. And then he, against the Panthers, he got outside in 2019. He's able to. He was missed last year when he was on the field. Yeah. That is the key for him is staying healthy. There is absolutely no question he has dynamite ability, dynamite talent. He's explosive. He is a big-time nose tackle in this league, or should be. I honestly thought he was gone. I did not think he was coming back. I thought someone's going to throw some money at this guy.
And they should have, probably.
And maybe they just don't understand how good he is. But the return of the great players around him is only going to elevate his game. Good luck to everyone else, because this guy does everything very well.
You're gonna learn. You're gonna learn this year, folks, in the NFL. Some of these GMs slept on this guy, and he's gonna feast. And if the injuries do happen to pile up, and we're not able to rely on DJ Jones as much, I'm not worried. Because you have big old Zach Kerr behind him. This dude is a physical specimen. He's dominant. I mean, this is a guy who doesn't have the best technique in the world, and it just doesn't matter. Watch his film in Carolina. He just eats blockers for lunch. He gets where he wants to get. He physically moves guys, right? Like, this was the idea. When we saw Kinlaw and everyone was talking about, how Kinlaw came in last year. He's the biggest guy in the room, and he's the youngest guy in the room, and he's always been the biggest player everywhere he goes. Zach Kerr now plays like the biggest guy in the room. This guy is just a physical specimen.
Yeah, when you're looking at nose tackles in this league, you're looking at one techs, this guy is what you normally look for. A big physical guy. It's a little bit different than what the 49ers have done at that position, but it's nice to have these guys. When you're playing teams that are going to try to run inside, sometimes Seattle will try to get their interior run game going, the vertical run game. This guy stuffs it. This guy blows up double teams without even knowing how to do it properly. And that's hard to do in the NFL, but he is a physical freak. I can't wait to see when Chris Kasarik gets able to, work with this guy and really get him to run, get up the field and split these double teams and cause issues. I look for him to be very impressive in the run game and decent against the pass. I don't think he's going to get that many opportunities in obvious pass downs, but I think, if you're throwing on first down and he's in, you got to worry about the whole weight of the world coming down on you because he's about to drive the garden center into you. And he's just a good player. I really like that move. I think that was solid. Him and DJ Jones is a nice 1-2 tandem.
Oh man, it's a great 1-2 tandem, and I'm really looking forward to see the change of pace that Zach Kerr brings to that interior defensive line there and what he's going to do with that nose tackle position. The next guy after that, Darion Daniels. This guy got an uphill climb to try and make this roster and get himself onto the active 53-man roster. And what do you think is his biggest obstacle that he's got to overcome, or the biggest thing that he's going to have to deal with?
Well, first off, I questioned why they signed him last year as an undrafted free agent.
Concerning.
That was the first thing. I also questioned why everyone was so high on him. There was people that even made videos talking about how he was the next, big thing, that he was going to, excel and become the starter.
Hold on a second. You mean 49ers fans overreacted a little bit?
Yeah, well, they were led that way by the guy that wears the gauntlet. But I will say that Darian Daniels, when he was in there, he played okay. I'm going to give him that. His biggest problem is he's not overly explosive. He doesn't disengage from blocks very well. He has his moments where he does, and I'm going to always kind of tend and tip my hat to Chris Kasarik working with this guy and developing him. But I think if he was ready to go and on the level that everyone thought, they wouldn't have brought in Zach Kerr.
Fair.
They brought in Kerr knowing that they needed an upgrade behind DJ Jones. They can't have a Darian Daniels coming in and playing a lot of snaps. They did a very, very good job improving this room, and part of it was making sure that Darian Daniels is the third best nose tackle and not the second.
And that's what you want. If Darian Daniels is sitting there as your third guy, who's now a outside looking in bubble player, then you're in business as a defense. If he is securely on the bubble and is an inside player who could play his way out, then you got some issues going on, because if Darian Daniels becomes a guy you have to rely on to play 30, 40, 50% of snaps, your defense is significantly weaker.
Yeah.
So 49ers front office, salutes to you. Thank you so much for doing that, and to the Thanoses of the world. I would say get better at watching film, but it's probably not going to change anything. At the end of the day, there, that D-line group, D-ends to D-tackle, it's fantastic top to bottom. And then we get to our linebackers, which is also pretty gosh darn solid. And you're going to see a name pop up in here a couple of times, and that's because of his diversity. But we're going to start with that weak outside linebacker, that will linebacker spot for this 49ers. Top of the list, cream of the crop, Dre Greenlaw.
Yep.
This is our coverage specialist. This is the guy who's going to be able to get out there in space, cover running backs in the flat, right? Cover over the middle very, very well. This guy is extremely intelligent for being in now only his third year in the league. This guy has developed at a rapid pace. D'Amico Ryans has done an incredible job with Dre Greenlaw. This is also a guy who's a sure tackler and has been a sure tackler since he came into the league. He's only going to improve. He's only going to get better. This could be the first year in which you have 2 Pro Bowl linebackers back in San Francisco for some time now. I'm really excited to see the next step in Dre Greenlaw's development.
Pro Bowl Dre is a real thing.
It is.
It's coming. As far as the will linebacker, too, I mean, this is the guy that's going to stay on the field more. So everyone understands is when we get into nickel, Will stays on the field and helps in coverage. That is when Quan Alexander came. That's what he originally did because he was good in coverage next to Fred. And now it's Dre Greenlaw, and he's got a stranglehold on that position.
Yeah.
He's not going to let it go. He does it at a high level, covering running backs, making tackles on receivers, out in the flat. He can do it all. This guy is an all-around great linebacker. And the guy we have slotted in behind him is Azeez Al-Shaair. And the reason is because Azeez is talented enough to be able to do what Dre does. As far as he can cover in space, he can go make tackles, he flies around, he's fast. He doesn't do it to the level Dre Greenlaw does, and that's why he's behind him. But if there was an injury to Dre Greenlaw or Dre Greenlaw's not in, you would feel comfortable having Azeez out there because he knows the defense, he's able to do it, he can play at the line of scrimmage. So he gives a lot of flexibility, and that's why you're probably going to see Azeez all over this linebacker group. He is a very versatile player.
100%. And the other guy that you're going to see a little bit bouncing back and forth, and he slides in here at the 3 slot in the depth chart for the will spot, is Flanagan Foles, because Flanagan Foles is going to be able to do a little bit of everything for you, right? I wouldn't say he's the greatest in coverage, but he can cover, and he's shown that he can in the past a little bit, especially in the preseason. And then you have him also being able to slide over and play that other outside linebacker spot on the strong side as well. So Flanagan Foles there at 3, and this is a guy right now who we're thinking is going to be more of our special teams linebacker slot. That's where he's going to fill in and fit in on this roster. And I don't know if he has a stranglehold on that spot, but I think he's the favorite for it.
He is the favorite now that Nathan Jerry's been cut. Mm-hmm. I think he's the favorite to kind of be the backup there. The real question is going to be how many linebackers they're going to keep. Is it going to be 4? Is it going to be 5? Is Talanoa Hufanga going to slide in there to linebacker? These are big questions. Is Marcel Harris going to end up sliding into linebacker? We don't know yet. We will see what happens when they're out there taking snaps. We probably will only get a glimpse of it. They're not going to want to give away, tip their hand and give it away. But Flanagan Foles, former safety, so he has coverage skills. He's able to play, knows about drops, he knows about coverage concepts. When you get those guys out there, you see what Fred Warner can do. When you understand coverage concepts, you know where receivers are going to be, and you're able to get there. So I like it. I think Flanagan Foles is a solid backup. He's fast. Not quite as good as Azeez, but he's pretty good.
Not bad at all. And the guy after that is the undrafted gentleman, Mr. Elijah Sullivan, right? He slots in there in that last spot there for the will linebacker spot. I feel he's a better coverage guy than he is anything else. I think that's his strength as a linebacker. but he's got a lot that he's got to prove, and I think between the two undrafted guys, him and Hilliard, he's going to have the tougher time of making this roster.
It's an uphill battle to make the linebacker room. We saw it last year. There was guys that we were high on, and they just really struggled to make this team, and all you heard was how good Flanagan Foles was. But we talked about Joe Walker on the live stream. Mm-hmm. Joe Walker's another guy that came in, and he had played, a role for Arizona. He had played on, played downs, played in special teams.
Significant downs,
yeah,
too.
And they brought him in, and he couldn't sniff the roster. I mean, that is how good this linebacker room is. So Elijah Sullivan might be struggling to make this roster, but I think a lot of guys are. Maybe practice squad is in his future.
Probably. That's a safe bet. And next we move to the middle linebacker spot where All-Pro Fred not only has a stranglehold on it, you don't even really need to address anything that he does because he does it all.
Yeah, he's captain of the defense. He knows all. He sees all. He does all. There's not a lot we can say about Fred that people don't already know. He's a complete linebacker and the best linebacker in the NFL. And the only other thing you need to know, he's going to be re-signed. Take a deep breath, faithful. It's going to be okay. It's going to happen. He will be back. Yes. Behind him, we have slotting in at Al-Shaair. Al-Shaair, yes. This is another time that you see this guy, but it's been proven, right? When Fred Warner, he's done it. When Fred Warner comes out, Al-Shaair goes in for him. That is something you want because you want him and Dre playing together. Correct. So that is a natural way to handle it, and that's how depth charts work. A lot of times you have players that fill multiple roles on your team. There's a reason you only keep 5 linebackers because somebody can play multiple roles. Used to see this with the offensive line as well. You just have to have guys that are interchangeable, and this guy's interchangeable and able to do it all. He's been with the team for 3 years. And we talked about that with our offensive group. You have guys like McKivitz's of the world that are both guards and tackles, right? Brunskill plays everywhere. The more guys you have that can play a variety of different positions and do a variety of different jobs, the more you can kind of splurge in other areas because you don't have to worry so much about keeping that extra linebacker if you have one who can do it all. Yeah, let's not forget Jesse Sapolo once went to the Pro Bowl in back-to-back years, once as a center and once as a guard. It's impressive. It's impressive. You don't see it very often, but when you can find those guys who can do it, you have to snag them up. And then the third guy on the depth chart and the last guy for the middle linebacker is Jonas Griffith. Jonas Griffith is somebody that I like. I think that he's a big physical guy that's a little bit different than the normal linebacker the 49ers have. If you look at the 49ers linebackers, they're usually very fast, a little bit on the slider side, where Jonas comes in almost 250 pounds. Big dude. I even thought at some point maybe they would use him to come off the edge. But maybe a role for him is actually playing on the edge to help stop the run in obvious, times you want to have an extra linebacker out there. He could do that. So there's going to be a niche for this guy because they had cut him, they brought him back. So they definitely are looking at this guy. I don't know how much he's developed, but he's a tackling machine, and he was also a very good blitzer in college. He made a lot of sacks, so that's something to keep an eye on as we move forward. I want to see him play in preseason because we got robbed of that last year. Let's see how somebody like this steps up and plays a small school guy, gets his opportunity. No, 100%, and that's the big thing with the preseason is going to help guys like Griffith. It's going to help guys like Sullivan. It's going to help guys like Hilliard. They're going to have an opportunity to demonstrate what they can do in this system with this defense, whether it's running the base, whether it's special packages or special types of blitzes, whatever it may be. You're going to be able to put them out on the field, see how they perform, and get a better idea who can fit better in whatever role you need them to fit into. Yeah. So I'm excited for that opportunity for those guys because Griffith definitely needs that opportunity to shine, as does Hilliard, as does Sullivan, as does Flanagan Foles. Yeah. And I would say to an extent Shaair does as well, especially now that he is going to be top cream of the crop in the strong side linebacker's position. They're slotting it at 1. Preseason is going to be a great barometer for where Al-Shaair is and how ready he is. Yeah, there was a question. Was it Al-Shaair or was it Nathan Jerry? The question's been answered. Yeah, Nathan Jerry's gone. The only thing that could derail him being the starter there is if they sign somebody. Correct. That is the only derailment. There's still, a possibility they could bring someone in, but I feel comfortable with him playing there. He's been in the system. He understands it. He knows what DeMeco Ryans wants. He's been coached by DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans understands his skill set and will be able to use it. Plus, he's only going to be on the field 20% of the time. The rest of the time, it'll be Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So base down sets are just not as prevalent, not as important as they used to be with the way that the offense are going, complete spread, and especially in our division, the Rams, the Cardinals. There's just not a lot of opportunities for somebody that's playing Sam linebacker to be on the field. How much do you value it? Well, I at least value a guy that has super speed and is able to run around and is decent to good in coverage. He's decent in coverage, and that's what happened last year a little bit, and that's why I got a little sour on Shaair was
we had all the injuries piling up in the secondary, and he got forced to be put on the field, and we were forced to run base sets a lot more than we needed to. And so he was asked to cover guys on third and shorts and things of that nature, where they come out in 4 wide out sets with one running back, and now you're having to put Greenlaw on a slot guy, and Shire has to guard a running back out of space, and teams were able to convert third downs that we're all sitting there going, we could get off the field right now and have all the momentum in the world, and they're able to continue drives. But again, like you just said, 20% of snaps, less opportunities for him to make mistakes, but also less things that he's going to have to prepare for during the week. Because if you're playing 20% of snaps, you know what those snaps are going to entail. These types of situations, these types of things, these types of scenarios, it's a lot easier to prepare and be ready for what you're going to see when there's less to prepare for.
Yeah, he has the ability to go sideline to sideline.
He does.
And he has the ability to run people down. I think sometimes his eyes betray him.
Yep.
When I watch film, there's sometimes you see his feet sit still. And anytime you see a linebacker sitting still for too long after the ball's been snapped, he's reading. He's taking too long. So tell these kids all the time, what that I would coach is, you're not reading a novel here. You got to read it and go. You need to be reading on the move, but that is something he's had to develop. He's a safety that's translated to linebacker. You have to develop it. It's different reading from that different spot and the different angle, but he's been progressing. Will he take the next step? If he does, 49ers might have another very locked down linebacker group. He'll fly around. He'll make plays, so that could be fun.
Yep, and slotting behind him is Flanagan Foles, a guy that we're, again, comfortable with. You know a lot about him. But third on that depth chart there, right underneath that, James Burgess, the guy they signed, the guy we had our nice little short on, right? I brought you all the information you need to know where he's played for more teams than he
from
has
your basement.
Stats. Exactly. Definitely from my basement and not from my home office because I don't live with my parents. It's fine. But James Burgess is a guy that, again, he's played in this league. You know he can play. He's never been a big impact guy. He doesn't put up a lot of numbers, doesn't have a lot of stats. He doesn't have a lot of starts under his belt. But he's played, and he knows what it takes to play linebacker at an NFL level.
Yeah, from the film I watched, which wasn't a whole lot, but I went ahead and went into it because he plays for the 49ers now, so I need to look.
Crazy.
He's a good tackler.
Yes.
He can play on pass downs, and I wouldn't be too worried, but I think he's going to be another 20% guy. And this guy could push to make this roster because he's a veteran that understands football. The 49ers have experience playing against him. They played against him last year. They know what this guy's film looks like in the league, so they know what they're getting. Plus, I just trust the fact that D'Amico Ryans knows how to use linebackers and knows how to coach linebackers.
That is fair.
And I guarantee that they're ready to go. They'll develop this guy to what level, I don't know. I think he is behind these other guys, and he's another guy that's going to suffer from the fact that we don't know if it's going to be 4 or 5 linebackers. He could be the guy that is on the outside looking in because of that reason.
100%. And the guy that slots in behind him there in the 4th spot, Justin Hilliard, a guy that you and I were very, very high on going into the draft and everything else. And when it didn't look like the Niners were going to go with a linebacker or draft a linebacker or address anything, and Justin Hilliard did get taken, I was sitting there going, man, it'd be really cool if the Niners, they did. They brought in Justin Hilliard. Very excited to hear that. This guy's coming off of a couple injuries. So the hope is that this guy's healthy. This guy can develop. D'Amico Ryans knows what he's doing with linebackers. I don't expect Hilliard to make the roster. I expect him to be a practice squad guy this year. But I'm really excited for what the future may hold because we've seen the development of Flanagan, Foles, and Al-Shaair. This is a guy who has all the athletic tools and had a lot of success at Ohio State. D'Amico Ryans getting his hands on him. This guy in a few years down the road could be that piece that's replacing a guy like Shire or Flanagan Foles, especially if one of them has a big year and they need to get paid. Someone else may be able to pay him, and you maybe have the guy waiting behind them in the wings ready to take over.
Coming in out of college, talent-wise, he's better than some of these linebackers that they have.
Absolutely.
I mean, he just never played up to his potential. I think you see it, and you're like, oh my gosh, you salivate at the prospect of what he could do in the NFL. We just haven't seen it translate. I saw limited OTA, drills of him. I thought that overall, him trying to engage and shed blocks, when he was engaging even the sled, you could see that it's not all put together. It's not one motion. It's not fluid. Those are things he can fix. But if he does get the technique down, he can push to make this roster because he's more physically gifted than the guys that are ahead of him. As far as the back end guys, not Fred, not
Fred
Dre.
and Dre.
No.
Dre, yeah, not those two.
Don't want to get that twisted, but he is he is a very big talent. He went to the Big Ten to Ohio State for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's a solid guy. So I want to see what he does. I'm really intrigued by him. I'm high on him. I would have been great if the 49ers would have drafted him in the draft. I know we were pushing kind of 5th, 6th round for them to take him. They ultimately didn't. They chose, don't draft the linebacker, draft the running back in the 6th round. Maybe he was that linebacker and they ended up getting him anyways. But he'll be fun to watch in the preseason.
Definitely a player to watch and a name to watch in the preseason. And next we shift gears, right? We take care of the front seven. That front seven is crucial to the 49ers' success. And now you have the guys on the back end who got to hold up their end of the bargain and just not get torched in those first 4 to 5 seconds with that front seven doing work. And the guy that we know for sure isn't going to do that at the cornerback position is Jason Verrett.
Jason Verrett is for sure a Pro Bowler this year. I'm going out on that limb because this guy is a lockdown guy. I have zero problems with him out on anyone. I know he had a couple bad showings last year, but that was his first year playing all the way, a whole season, and really not even that because he started the beginning of the season injured. So this guy's going to come out. He's going to establish himself. He's going to make that money, and the 49ers are going to have a better option, a better starter than they ever had at corner in the Shanahan-Lynch era. This is the best one they got, and he's going to come out there and he's going to lock it down. The flexibility to play man and zone, to be able to read the offense, what they're going to do, be able to know by where the guys lined up and the route combinations, what is coming to him. You just can't teach some of that stuff. His eyes do not lie. He's always where he should be, and that's really nice to watch.
And the speed is slowly making its way back. It has not taken a step. He's not declined yet.
No.
You'll love to see that, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. He stays healthy. This guy is not only a lockdown, he's one of the best corners in football.
Agreed.
Man, I love to say it. I love saying that. It just makes me feel good inside. After that, Emmanuel Mosley is the second guy on that depth chart. And a guy, again, like Verrett, flexible. Can play man, can play zone. Love the physicality with Emmanuel Mosley. Love the technique. I love the way he attacks receivers. And he's going to have to continue attacking receivers and continue to improve because he is going to get the best shot against every opponent we play every year. They're going to stick their number one on Emmanuel Mosley's side unless the Niners decide to start having Verrett follow. If Verrett's just a one side of the field guy, Emmanuel Mosley is going to get a lot of, we'll call it shade thrown his way. They're going to be putting the number one guy on him as much as they possibly can and trying to go at him. He's going to have a tough time all year, but I think the physicality bodes in his favor, right? You can get these receivers off their routes early, let the front seven do its work. We've seen the ability for him to be able to play the deep ball especially. We've shown it on this podcast. I have a lot of faith in Emmanuel Mosley.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on what team they're playing, what the defense, a game plan is, how they plan to attack. I'm sure we'll see sometimes where he's going to get help from a safety. There'll be other times where he's going to be on an island. He's going to be asked to do it himself. But he has the ability. He has the talent. We've seen it in small snippets. It's like you get very high on this guy, and then all of a sudden something happens. I know last year he wasn't really healthy, but in 2019 he kind of had ups and downs. And unfortunately, there are some big plays that happened against him that we remember instead of remembering all the good times that he came in and all the plays that he made where he came in relief for Ahkello Witherspoon and made plays to help us win football games.
Saved the day.
He did, and he plays well against DK, and it's hard to play against DK, but he does the best he can. But I think he has the ability, and the key, though, you said, was flexibility. That was some of what you lost with Richard Sherman, was flexibility to run what you want coverage-wise. You don't lose that. You can now run anything you want with Emmanuel Mosley and Jason Verrett together.
I love that. That's what you'll love to see. And that is the young guy. Ambry Thomas slots in there. Again, a guy that hasn't proved a lot, but we think he's 3 on this depth chart and has an opportunity to push for 2 and push Emmanuel Mosley. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be easy. But Ambry Thomas has the athleticism and the tools there to be, again, a diverse, flexible corner for the 49ers. I think it bodes better for him in the future. But if something happens to Emmanuel Mosley, something happens to Verrett, this guy is waiting in the wings right there, right off the jump, to be a guy slotting in and playing snaps and playing downs for the 49ers.
The one thing I'll say about Ambry Thomas is Ambry Thomas believes he's that good.
I like that.
He's ready to start. He thinks he's ready to start, and that's what I like. I like the confidence. Get out there and play. The physical gifts are there. The eyes are there. The want to is there because he wants to understand offenses so he can be in the right spots. He looks at it from a cerebral mindset. It's something I love about Jason Verrett as well. Those are areas that he can excel, and if he's excelling, he has an opportunity to win this job. Emmanuel Mosley is going to have to play at a high level because Ambry Thomas is looking over his shoulder right now.
He is.
And any slip-up is going to give Ambry Thomas the ability to go out there, and he's not afraid. Yeah. He's not afraid to make plays, and when you're not afraid to make plays, you do things, you play loose, you attack. He's also going to be very good in the run game as well. He'll be coming up and making tackles. He didn't play last year, so we haven't seen the development that he's had.
He's itching, too.
He could have had a huge development.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He might not be pick 102. He could have easily been a first or second round pick.
He might have been the best. He could have been the best corner in the draft. We just didn't see it. So
right.
Everything with Ambry Thomas right now is an unknown. I'm looking forward to seeing it and making it known to see what exactly we got there at 102. Because if we got a steal, then my goodness gracious, the secondary is going to take a tick from uncertain to very certain in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because after him, you got two guys there slotting in at 4 and 5, and Dante Johnson and Tim Harris that you've seen a lot from. You know what they can do. By no means are they, security blanket, safety net corners in terms of but they're not Brian Allen.
Yeah.
They can play a role in this system. They can be effective at it. They're going to give up some catches. They're going to give up some underneath stuff, but you can put them out there and rely on them and know that they're going to get the job done and can do it effectively.
When it comes to Dante Johnson, he gives you veteran flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that has seen it all, done it all, played multiple positions, multiple games. The flexibility is what the 49ers have to love about him. He can play.
There's a theme with the defense.
Yeah,
flexibility.
He can play on the outside. He can play on the inside, and that is very nice. As far as Tim Harris goes, it's talent that hasn't been realized yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody that once again, because of injury, was a late round draft pick a couple years ago, could easily have been a top 3, in the top 3 rounds, just like Ambry Thomas. That is the talent level. The question is, can this guy translate to running a lot of flexible things? Because he came out, it was more of a cover 3 scheme that the 49ers were looking to run all the time, and he's kind of been that cover 3 corner that prototype that you're looking for. So can he translate to both? I think he has the talent to do so. He's a very talented player. He's going to push. Him and Dante Johnson is a real battle to see who's going to make this roster. And the only reason he's there is because, and in that spot behind Dante Johnson, is because he hasn't stayed healthy long enough for us to get a good idea of what he can actually do in the NFL. And once we see it, just maybe he can beat out Dante Johnson and be a big impact player the 49ers were hoping when they drafted him a couple years back.
That's going to be the big thing for preseason for him this year.
Yep.
Not only just health, but getting on the field and showing out. He's going to have to do it if he wants an opportunity to make this roster, if he wants an opportunity to jump up that depth chart. Because, again, Ambry Thomas is an unknown. We're hoping and leaning towards him being closer to the top end of the depth chart, but who knows? You never know what's going to happen with these guys, and that's why preseason this year is going to be so huge for the secondary and for this team in general.
There's no guarantee that Ambry Thomas is not looking up at Tim Harris once we get out of training camp. Tim Harris is that kind of athlete and that kind of technician, so should be fun. This is going to be a nice battle for those last 3 spots in the cornerback room.
Absolutely, because next up we have the nickel spot, and these are the nickel corners. These are the guys who we think are going to be more specialized corners for this defense, and it starts with Shark, right? K'Wan Williams there is the guy there at the nickel position, and after that we have Diamador Lenore sliding in behind him. Again, Diamador Lenore nowhere near what Williams is for this team and what Shark is for this team, but we believe he has the potential. But what Williams does, he does it better than most every other nickel corner in the league. Whether it's blitz packages, whether it's picking up tight ends, whether it's covering running backs, whether it's slot receivers in space, this guy can do a variety of different things. I'm actually most excited for him because if you have a more aggressive D'Amico Ryans, a defensive coordinator, more blitzes from Shark off the edge, more creative mismatches in terms of what they're having him do, showing blitz, delayed blitzes, right? Lining up, head up on a guy, funneling the receiver, slot receiver in, and then picking up a running back in space. There are so many different ways they can utilize this guy. It's going to be very, very hard for offensive coordinators to know what exactly his role is and what they're doing with him because this guy isn't afraid to get down and dirty and get in on the run game either.
Yeah, and the league is, just keeps moving closer and closer to the spread, spread all the time. You would think that a nickel guy would be valued even more the way that it's trending. But so far, it hasn't been valued. He didn't find the value that he really deserved out on the open market, and he's back. And he's back to prove that he's a big-time player in this league, and he should be respected. And you're right about the blitz. The things that he can do coming off the edge, he's made a lot of big plays for the 49ers, and D'Amico Ryans is going to be able to use him in blitz packages. But Shark has good recognition, and he's not afraid to step up in the run game, like you said. He's a very good, solid player. I like the things he does. He is going to man that position, and as long as he's on the field, and that's the big question, can he stay on the field? As long as he's on the field, the 49ers defense is very solid because I feel comfortable anytime he's out there. If I see 24 covering a receiver or a tight end, I know he's going to be with the guy. He's not going to just get smoked, and that is always fun to have when you have a guy that you can depend on.
100% indeed. Diamador Lenore, like I said, is the next guy that slots in. And it's a guy that I have more concerns about the physical aspect of the game with him. I know you saw the short clip of him, right, against Austin Watkins. Everyone's like, oh, man, I love the physicality from the youngster. And it's like, okay, it's an undrafted free agent wide receiver. Let's pump the brakes. I have more questions on that with him than anything else. He does have some footwork stuff and coverage stuff to clean up. But this guy has all the athletic tools to be a guy down the line here that is going to be great in the nickel slot, especially for this team and what this team does with their nickel corners. I don't think he's ready right now. However, I do think that he slots in above a guy like Dante Johnson in that slot because I feel his upside is higher than Dante Johnson's is right now.
Well, I think they drafted him with the overall thought that they might not be able to keep Shark in the future and that Deommodore Lenoir is going to take over that position and he's going to play well. And his nature and the way that he plays definitely fits the role that the 49ers want as far as an attacking guy in the blitz, but can also lock you up and, is a very smart and intuitive player. So I like this guy a lot. I think that he's going to fit in nice. I think there's also an opportunity for him to play on the outside. There's no guarantee that he won't come out there and just outplay some of these other guys. So he might make it hard for a Dante Johnson who has that flexibility. Maybe Deommodore Lenoir becomes that guy. And then that might also help Tim Harris make the roster because of it. So there's a lot that's going to go into this. But Deommodore Lenoir was a nice pick. We liked him a lot. You remember us watching film of him way back when we were going over our corners. And I liked him a lot. Something just jumped off the screen. The 49ers saw it too, which is wonderful because he's a nice player to have. And I think he's going to be out there with a chip on his shoulder trying to prove every single day that he's the best.
I agree with you there. And Dante Johnson slides in behind him for the reasons we just said. But yeah, flexibility-wise, Deommodore Lenoir could be taking that slot. Now we move to the last two spots, the safeties. And we'll start with the free safeties. And we've talked a lot about the safeties in the past. Jimmy Ward, definitely the guy that slots in at 1. Tavon Wilson behind him at 2. And Jared Maiden we have there at 3. Jared Maiden, my word, has the worst. He's got the highest hill to climb, right? It's the biggest mountain, the biggest steep. Jimmy Ward, if he's healthy, has shown that that spot's really his going forward, unless something crazy happens. But I do like the Tavon Wilson addition. Bringing this guy in shores up the defense, shores up the way that D'Amico Ryans wants to call this defense. He fits. He can come up in the run, right? He can cover in space. This guy also is a turnover magnet. He's always around the ball. The ball just happens to pop into his hand. I really feel a lot better about this safety room than I have in years past because now when a guy like Jimmy Ward comes off the field or if he gets injured, God's sakes, please no. There's a veteran presence behind him who's played extremely well in this league, who knows where to be, right, smart and intelligent, and isn't going to be a liability in terms of coverage, in terms of where he's supposed to be on the field.
Tavon Wilson became very significant when Tarvarius Moore got hurt.
Yep.
Because this guy is going to fill that Tarvarius Moore role. And that's what you need from this defense. You need to have that extra guy, especially with them running 3 safety looks sometimes. You need to have a guy that can do this. He has the flexibility to play in the box, flexibility to play the deep third. He can go man you up too. It's not like he's like the greatest cover guy, but you're not expecting one of your safeties to be a great cover guy. That is where Jimmy Ward excels because Jimmy Ward has played corner, he's played nickel. So Jimmy Ward is just a freak when it comes to the flexibility and versatility that he has. So you can't compare to him, but when you're comparing free safeties, he's a nice fit. Tavon Wilson's a nice fit. And as far as Jared Maiden goes, he has flexibility as well. He can play in the nickel. He can play, the safety role. So he has capabilities to make this team. I just think that they brought all these guys in and they knew what Jared Maiden was. I think they wouldn't have brought these guys in if they thought Jared Maiden was going to, ascend and be able to push Tarvarius Moore even. But the 49ers did not rest on their laurels and made sure that they did a great job locking up this, secondary, especially this free safety area. They did a good job with the safety room.
I agree with you completely. And the next 4 names we talk about on the strong safety side, I mean, these 4 names all probably on any other team make a roster pretty soundly, pretty easily. And that's what makes Jared Maiden's job so hard is you got 4 names over there that you can do a lot with as well. Jaquiski Tartt slots in at 1 for us.
Yeah.
Tony Jefferson at 2. Talanoa Hufanga at 3. And then you still have Marcel Harris there at 4, a guy who has been in this room and played significant snaps for the 49ers. The reality of the situation is you may not be able to keep all 4 of those guys. You might not be able to.
You can't.
So Who goes? And right now we have Marcel Harris as the outside guy looking in because you have a guy like Talanoa Hufanga who does all of the things that Marcel Harris already does and is a younger guy with more upside. But we could be dead wrong on that. But I don't think the Niners would spend a 5th-round draft pick on this kid.
This is when you start thinking about the hybrid position and him moving to linebacker. And also poor Tavon Wilson sitting over there at free safety thinking that his spot is maybe locked in, or at least has a good opportunity with Tarvarius Moore getting hurt. They might have to move one of these guys over there. Which 4 safeties make this roster is going to be hard to, I guess, figure out until we see the film. Tart comes in at number 1 because he understands the offense. You know what you're getting from Tart. As long as he's healthy, he has a good opportunity to start. But I think Tony Jefferson's right there, hip by hip with him. Jefferson's there to play. They didn't bring him in because of an injury. They brought him in because they know what kind of player he can be.
And he's been a starter in this league, folks.
Oh, yes.
He's been a starter in this league on good Baltimore Ravens defenses.
He's a very good player. He can play in the box. He can play the deep third. He's a very talented guy. Tart is in for a battle. This is about to be a grudge match. It's going to be very hard to pick one of these guys. Tart better stay healthy, or Jefferson's going to take his job number 1. But even if he does stay healthy, Jefferson might take his job. That's how close it is. And Hufanga and Marcel Harris is just a completely different battle. Yeah. Because they are similar players, where you have Marcel Harris, coming out, a couple years ago, and now you have Hufanga, and Hufanga was a 5th-round pick. You don't usually give up on 5th-round picks early. That's why we have them slotted ahead. One of them could turn into a hybrid role. Maybe both of them turn into a hybrid role. That is going to be the question of training camp, the question of the preseason, and ultimately the final cuts. I think we thought they've been trying to replace Marcel Harris for a couple years, but he keeps sticking around.
He's got fighting him.
Well, he does, and I like that because he's got all that special teams going for him too. Yeah. But he's still a liability in the coverage game. That's why moving him to a hybrid role makes more sense. Play him in the box, which they did a lot in the nickel. Play him in the box and away from coverage where he seems to struggle.
It's very true. I mean, there's so many possibilities with this team, and that's what I mean is if you got 2 guys potentially that you're moving into hybrid roles, that is going to impact your linebacker room as well and who you're keeping and what you're doing. So there's a lot of still questions going into training camp, but this was our pre-training camp depth chart for this 49ers defense. And you need to let us know what you think about it down below in the comment section right now. You love it, you hate it, who should be higher, who should be lower. We want to hear from you. We want to have this conversation. It's a great conversation. It's a fun conversation because training camp is so close. And while you're down there commenting away, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to share it with the rest of the faithful. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button if you haven't hit it already. Hit that notification bell as well. Join the Cutback crew today. Become a member of this great community. Have great, wonderful conversations daily at 11 a.m. and on the live streams Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time.
And there's a lot to go over with the depth chart. I had a lot of fun talking about it. I am curious to see how everyone else sees it because sometimes evaluation is different. People see things different way. This is how we evaluate it. This is how we think the 49ers are evaluating it. And that's kind of what we're trying to tap into. But I know sometimes it's like picking apples and oranges. You're kind of looking at it. I don't know what it could be. It's at least a fun conversation to have. I'm curious people's point of view on it.
Because there's plenty of point of views on this. There's plenty of ways to construct and put this depth chart together. So make sure you're maybe not your most creative way to put this depth chart together, but the way you think it's going to look. We want to hear about it. We want to talk with you about it. Man, so close, inching closer and closer to training camp. He's inching closer and closer to preseason, inching closer and closer to the quest for 6. It's extremely exciting. And you know what? While the Niners are inching towards that quest for 6, we're inching towards that 2,000 subscriber mark. So help us get there. Join the Cutback crew today. And until next time, 49ers fans, you stay safe.
And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.